we are brought up in a society where we don't typically talk about feelings.
To deal with any kind of situation, right? What more something that is really emotional and unpredictable? I think the first step is to start to share.
If you put anger in your hands and you only part your body with anger and it was in your hands, what would you do?
Like your positive.
Yeah.
Why I decided to work with movement was because I really felt it was important to work with a non-verbal medium, and I just wanted them to be able to share their journey with their body. My project's called Between Earth and Sky. It's a installation piece, and there's a video which features 7 performances by the caregivers, and each performance is actually created by the caregiver from their stories. I work with caregivers who care specifically for people with mental illnesses.
My son is suffering from depression, and I get involved in this movement workshop is through the counselor from the CAL. When she told me about it, she said, can be a very healing process.
Psychologically, it's like opening up this box you're keeping in your chest, right? So you open it up, expand, open your hands up. So open up, yeah.
So in the very beginning of the workshop, what we focused on was actually preparing the body and the voice. So these are actually tools that all of us have, but we don't normally activate it. Doing a lot of breathing exercises, and then slowly we start to introduce how do you actually take elements from your story and how do you translate that into a movement.
I construct it based on my journey these 2 years with my loved one. From the moment I got a call from school counselor, and when he was admitted to hospital, and
words can be very specific. When you actually use your body, I think a lot of unconscious, latent sort of emotions emerge.
One of the exercises that I really remember is the feeling of being weighed down. The exercise was about us lying down on a floor and trying to bring ourselves out of mud. The burden is with us, but we are able to actually carry it with us. At the same time also, we are willing to let go of some of the weight.
I think the main thing that I realized also in this process is that it really isn't a short-term situation. In fact, it can go on for years without knowing when it will end.
Teenagers or adults with intellectual disabilities, most of the time, verbal communication is not really the primary way of communicating. Most of the time, it's by touch. I Carry You in My Heart is a clay-making journey that encapsulates the relationship between caregiver and care receiver.
I'm very satisfied with this because from the heart here, it connects us together. And today, I have a new idea. I draw some heart here and I join them together. That represents heart string.
Somewhere in the middle of the sessions, I realized that I was tired. Because I was carrying a lot of things, like literally carrying a lot of things, clay and tools and new tools to bring to the workshop. And then I thought about how potentially similar this is like to carrying. You get tired. I think I essentially also saw myself as someone who has to guide them. So I cannot be tired, you know. If I'm hungry, I cannot show it. Maybe it's an Asian thing. In order for them to be strong, to carry on and to kind of know what they're doing, I also have to bring on that confidence.
I think in caregivers, the hardest things for them is to ask them to take a break. Sometimes I ask my helper, hey, don't always stay inside the ward, you know. And she'll say, no lah, you know, in case ye fall down or what, you know. There's a lot of guilty conscience. So for this project itself, we create a fictional character called V8. You see V8 non-stop helping people. If you look at it subtly, as the film go through, then V8 start to get dirtier and dirtier. And you see a lot of shadings. And towards the end, he's quite dark. In Hokkien, they say, must take a break, no must tea pie. You are not made of metal. If you are tea, right, so you must be a robot. So even, I mean, the story itself, the robot at the end need to take a break and recharge. If not, it malfunction and everything go haywire.
Presence is a 360-degree film, a virtual reality film set on the last day of a patient's life. I talked to a lot of people to gather second-hand account. Typically in a family situation, everyone is ridden with guilt and they each have their own ideas of how best to administer this care.
站起来 I call my sister, okay? Mr. Lee, 阿公没力，阿公 okay.
Why no oxygen again? A lot of people ask the professional caregiver why is he not getting the oxygen mask. That's a very common thing that people come in and say, oh, no wonder he's dying, you know, the oxygen mask is off, you know. But the thing is that when you're dying, you are dying, you know. The oxygen mask just makes the patient feel very, very uncomfortable.
As children, there's also a lot of guilt and internal struggle, which resulted in how we behave when the situation is called for.
Sometimes there's nothing you can do for them. If there's any guilt, you know, you just have to let it go and receive it with grace.
My project is a comic story that tells the lives of 3 elderlies and their relationship with their caregivers. This set of characters, I then just basically give them an adventure to go on. The adventure deals with a few funny things that's happening in the neighborhood. For example, stories of there being a ghost, recent case of someone having committed suicide, cat food going missing. The idea is to show that even if you are old, you are still capable of going on an adventure, to show the supportive role that is played by their caregivers. It's a real thing for me. I'm of the age where my own parents are already very old. As I look around for my cousins and all, my extended family is overwhelmed with old people. Whether I like it or not, I am a caregiver. My father also is a caregiver for my mother. And we are all different levels of caregivers.
I used to live with a grandfather who has dementia too. My project is about finding an interesting activity that I can do with a dementia patient.
I try, love you deny.
And then through the process, I will try to interview and talk to them and review the various sort of issues and concerns that they may have regarding dementia caregiving.
Upon the sea,
how for someone like Mr. Awi who has no family of his own, and for him to have dementia and now he relies solely on the lodge for his care, the main caregiver is the nursing home.
They cannot communicate directly to you what they feel. That if they are suffering from pain, they cannot tell you. Dementia care is more like developing a relationship with your resident, in knowing them deeper, because most of the time they have problems with communication.
My project is about inclusion for special needs kids in early childcare. I'm working on a series of prints. The idea is to make posters that are huge and the colour has to be bold. Forget about the negative aspect of all the political stuff. I thought that the whole Chinese Cultural Revolution style of posters is a very impactful campaign. It is important for the public to be aware of inclusion, but then this thing can't change overnight. So the best way to do it is start them young.
I'm working mainly with groups, with caregivers for people with autism. I do a double exposure because I was playing around with the idea of, when the caregiver is not there, they're constantly on the caregiver's mind as well. People with autism who are 18 and above, their employment rate is really low, and most of them are at home or in a daycare center, and they don't really integrate with the society that much. There are a lot of caregivers who have children with low functioning autism, and they do not bring them out to public. They do not tell their family the situation. So these are all the cases that we don't see, and that's why they want to take part in this exhibition.
What I hope that the public will learn is that if they read the booklet, they look at the posters, I hope that they will think that hey, I too can make a difference, changing my own attitudes and teaching my kids to be more open.
I went into a project thinking that it is about responsibilities and duties of caregivers, but I realized increasingly it is about the bond between them, specifically love.
It's really love. I think without that, it'll be hard to do it.
Even though he's not very verbal, he can't tell me how much he misses me, but I really can feel that.
I think the reward at the end of the journey, right, is to be able to see your loved ones closely communicating with each other and knowing that no matter what happens, no matter how far you actually drift apart or how hard you quarrel, you know at the end of the day you're going to be there for each other, and whatever grievances or whatever mistakes that we have done to each other, you actually forgive and you really look past that.
One of the, I think the surprising impacts that they discovered is that they love to move. I think that is one big aspect, even for myself. I may have discovered the joy of contact improv.
To me, art is very alien. I'm not an art person.
I would say this is my first art project.
There was a lot of resistance to painting. I cannot paint. The reason why I asked them to paint on the canvas is because I feel that there are some hopes or some dreams that they have. As the photographer, I'm never able to fully express it for them.
I found that they realized the beauty and the joy of making something.
Using body language is a way to express myself.
To be comfortable and brave, to enter a vulnerable state.
Fear and uncertainty started to creep in.
They actually went away very empowered. Some of them felt like, wow, after this, maybe I should go and sign up for a drawing class. I can be an artist also.
We are actually being taught that there is always an artist in every one of us. But how do you bring out the artist in you? The journey that we went through as caregivers, that journey in itself is a piece of art that we have exercise over, we have control over it.
It is part of who we are, how society developed, how Singapore will increasingly become.
It's a growing community. Over the years, I think they've actually discovered that there's a huge gap. There's very little attention given to caregivers.
I feel that it's very important to not only meet the needs of our loved ones who suffer from mental illness.
A lot more like a real kind of empathy, and in some ways tolerance towards their very unpredictable needs.
I'm planning to have the vessels displayed on a low pedestal. It's deliberate because I like to invite the audience to come down to that level to look at the artworks. We don't understand each other sometimes, and that means coming down and adjusting your levels.
The responsibility of caregiving shouldn't fall solely on the caregiver. It could fall on the society as well.